Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going into the world of domain name disputes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that digital Wild West
Right.
where brands are constantly battling over their online names?
Yeah,
It's high stakes,
it is.
with some seriously fascinating legal battles going on behind the scenes.
You're absolutely right. It's easy to forget that there's a whole legal framework governing who gets to use what name online.
Right.
And when those names are worth potentially millions,
Yeah.
things can get pretty heated.
Okay, so for our listener who might not be familiar with the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
let's quickly set the stage.
Right.
We're talking about cyber squatting.
Right.
When someone registers a domain name very similar to a well-known brand, hoping to profit from the confusion.
Right.
And to combat this,
Yeah.
we have the UDRP and the URS.
Right. The Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy
Okay,
and the Uniform Rapid Suspension System.
got it.
Think of them as the digital police force for trademarks online. And the source material we're diving into today
Yeah.
is GigaLaw's Domain Dispute Digest for Q4 2024.
Right.
It's like a quarterly report card on all things cyber squatting packed with stats and insights.
Oh.
We even have some commentary from GigaLaw's founder, Doug Isenberg,
Oh,
a
yeah.
leading expert in this field.
Doug's the best.
He is.
So what are we uncovering in this deep dive?
Okay.
Well, we're looking at the major trends in domain name disputes last year.
Mhm.
How effective are these UDRP and URAG policies?
Yeah.
And what does all of this mean for you, whether you're a business owner,
Right.
a website creator, or just curious about the internet's inner workings?
Mhm.
This is relevant stuff.
Absolutely. And let's kick things off with a statistic that might surprise you.
Okay.
UDRP decisions actually went up 3.1% in 2024.
Really? I thought I read somewhere that these kinds of disputes were declining. What's going on there?
It all comes down to the data sources.
Okay.
GigaLaw's Digest takes a broader view,
Mm-hmm.
looking at decisions from all 5 ICANN-approved UDRP providers.
Okay.
UIPO, which is just one of those providers,
Right.
might show a slightly different trend.
So it's important to look at the whole picture, not just a slice of the pie.
That's right.
But the takeaway here is that cyber squatting is still a major issue, but trademark owners are actively fighting back.
Exactly. And the good news is that the UDRP is proving to be very effective.
Okay.
Over 95% of UDRP decisions in Q4 2024
Wow.
resulted in the disputed domain name being transferred back to the rightful trademark owner.
Wow, that's incredibly high. If you're a business owner, this is really reassuring.
Yeah.
It means you actually have a very good chance of getting your name back if someone tries to cyber squat on it.
It's a testament to the strength of the UDRP system.
Yeah.
However, there is another interesting trend we need to unpack.
Okay.
While the success rate is high,
Mm.
the number of domain names involved in each UDRP case has actually decreased by almost 25% in Q4 2024.
That's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
Are cyber squatters becoming less ambitious?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There are a couple factors at play.
Okay.
One is the increasing use of privacy and proxy services,
Right.
which makes it harder to track down the actual owners of domain names.
Hmm.
It's like trying to file a lawsuit against a ghost.
So it's becoming a game of digital hide and seek.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the GDPR,
Right.
the EU's data protection regulation,
Uh-huh.
which has also made it tougher to get information on domain name registrants.
So cyber squatters are getting sneakier, but the UDRP is still a powerful tool for brand owners.
It is.
Now, the digest also highlighted something new, this quarter terminations.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, 12.6% of domain name disputes were terminated before a decision was even reached. What's the story there?
Terminations are a bit of a black box.
Okay.
The UDRP rules provide 3 possible reasons:
Right.
a settlement between the parties,
Okay.
impossibility to continue the case,
Right.
or legal proceedings initiated outside of the UDRP.
I imagine settlements are the most likely scenario.
It's the most logical conclusion,
Yeah.
though we can't be entirely sure without more data.
Right.
Some trademark owners might actually prefer a formal decision,
Yeah.
even if a settlement is on the table,
Okay.
to set a precedent
Right.
and deter future cyber squatting attempts.
Like a legal warning shot?
Like a legal warning shot.
That makes sense. A public win can be a powerful deterrent.
Right.
Okay, we've covered the UDRP,
Yeah.
which is clearly a major player in this world.
Mm.
But there's another policy we need to talk about, the underdog, the URS.
Okay.
It's not as widely used, but it still plays a significant role.
The URS is interesting because despite its limitations, it saw a significant increase in use in 2024.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't apply to .com domain names,
Right.
which are still the most sought after.
Yeah.
And it can only lead to the suspension of a domain, not a transfer to the trademark owner.
Right, so it's not as powerful as the UDRP.
That's correct.
But here's where it gets intriguing. URS decisions were up a whopping 14.52% in 2024.
That's a big jump.
What's driving that surge in popularity?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It certainly is. Could it be that the URS is a more cost-effective option for smaller businesses?
Yeah.
Or for situations where speed is critical?
It's possible.
Maybe there's a strategic advantage to using it alongside the UDRP.
It's definitely a trend worth exploring further.
Yeah.
Perhaps in part 2 of our deep dive, we can delve into the reasons behind this URS surge and uncover what makes it a valuable tool in certain situations.
Absolutely. I'm already hooked on this digital detective story.
Me too.
Now, before we move on to part 2, let's give our listener a taste of the action.
Okay.
The GigaLaw Digest provides some juicy insights into which brands are being targeted the most and which domain extensions are the hottest commodities.
It's like a peek behind the curtain of the digital battlefield.
Right.
Some of the brands most frequently targeted in UDRP cases include big names like Carrefour, Sodexo,
Yeah.
Lego.
Lego. Seriously, who's trying to cyber squat on Lego?
You'd be surprised. The world of domain name disputes is full of unexpected players.
Wow.
As for domain extensions, .com still reigns supreme, of course.
Right.
But there were a few surprises in the most common GTLDs and CCTLDs,
Okay.
which we'll uncover later.
Imagine the legal battles happening behind the scenes for these valuable digital properties.
Oh, yeah.
It's high stakes.
It certainly is, and we'll unpack it all in part 2 of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Thanks.
Before we jump back into those juicy stats about which brands are getting hit the hardest,
Right.
let's circle back to the URS for a moment.
Okay.
You're asking about what might be driving that increase in popularity.
Yeah.
And it's a really good question.
It definitely caught my attention. It seems like there's more to the URS than meets the eye. It might not be as powerful as the UDRP,
Right.
but it's clearly gaining traction for a reason.
And one of the key advantages of the URS is its speed
Yeah.
and simplicity.
Uh-huh.
It's designed to be a much faster process than the UDRP. Got it. In some cases, that speed can be absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Imagine a situation where someone is using your brand name in a phishing scam.
Right.
Every minute that domain name is active,
Oh, yeah.
potential customers are at risk.
That makes perfect sense in those situations. A quick suspension could be a lifesaver.
Yeah.
You could stop the immediate harm while maybe pursuing a full transfer through the UDRP in parallel. It's like a tactical strike team versus a full-blown legal battle.
Exactly. And another factor is cost.
Okay.
The URS is often more cost-effective than the UDRP,
Right.
which can be a deciding factor for smaller businesses
Yeah.
or those with limited legal budgets.
So it's a valuable tool for certain situations, especially when time and resources are tight.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready to get back to those top offenders.
Okay.
The digest mentioned that Carrefour,
Yeah.
the French retail giant, was the most targeted brand in UDRP cases.
They were?
Any thoughts on why there's such a magnet for cyber squatters?
Well, think about Carrefour as a global footprint.
Okay. They have stores in over 30 countries.
Wow.
That kind of brand recognition is incredibly valuable.
Right.
And cyber squatters know that people are searching for Carrefour online. They want to capitalize on that existing traffic.
It's like they're trying to set up shop right next to the real Carrefour,
Yeah,
hoping to scoop up some unsuspecting customers.
that's right.
Talk about shady business practices.
It's definitely unethical and often illegal.
Right.
But it also highlights the importance of a strong brand and the lengths to which people will go to exploit that value.
So are those other big names on the list, like Sodexo and Lego, facing similar challenges?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sodexo is a global food services and facilities management company with operations in over 80 countries. Their brand is recognized worldwide. And Lego. Well, who doesn't love Lego?
It's true.
Their brand is synonymous with creativity and imagination, making them a prime target for cyber squatters. I can already picture the kind of shady website someone might try to create using those brand names.
I know.
Counterfeit Lego sets, fake Sodexo vouchers.
And let's not forget about the potential for phishing scams.
Right.
Imagine a website designed to look like the official Lego site,
Oh, yeah.
tricking people into giving up their personal information.
It's scary stuff.
It's a real threat.
Okay, so we've talked about the brands under attack.
Right.
Let's move on to the domain extensions themselves.
Okay.
We know .com is still king,
It is.
but the digest hinted at some other interesting trends.
There are a few.
What else is catching your eye?
There are a few noteworthy developments.
Okay.
.co, for example,
Yeah.
is becoming a popular alternative to .com.
Hmm.
It's short, memorable, and has a global appeal.
That makes sense.
We're also seeing an increase in the use of more niche extensions,
Right.
like .shop for e-commerce sites
Okay.
or .tech for technology companies.
It's like the internet is becoming more specialized with domain extensions catering to specific industries and interests.
I think you're right.
What about those country-specific extensions, the CCTLDs? Any surprises there?
Well, one that popped up quite frequently in the digest
Uh-huh.
was .ro, the CCTLD for Romania.
.ro. Interesting. Why Romania, I wonder?
It's hard to say for sure without more data,
Okay.
but it could point to Romania becoming a more attractive target for cyber squatters.
Right.
Perhaps they see potential in registering domain names there
Yeah.
as Romania's economy grows.
Mm.
Or it could be that the .ro registry is becoming more proactive in enforcing its policies against cyber squatting.
So it's a bit of a mystery.
It is.
But it shows that this is a global issue. It's
Yeah.
not just about .com or any particular country.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The internet is borderless,
Right.
and so are domain name disputes.
Speaking of which, let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about what this all means for our listener. What steps can they take to protect themselves from cyber squatting?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah, we don't want our listeners to feel powerless in this digital Wild West.
The best defense is a good offense.
Okay.
If you're starting a business, register your domain name early,
Right.
even if you're not ready to launch a website.
Okay.
And consider registering variations of your domain name with different extensions like .net, .co, and your country's CCTLD.
It's like building a fortress around your brand,
Right.
making it much harder for cyber squatters to encroach on your territory.
Exactly.
But what if you already have a domain name
Yeah.
and you discover that someone is cyber squatting on a similar name? What are your options then?
That's where the UDRP and URS policies come in.
Okay.
If you can prove that the domain name is identical or confusingly similar to your trademark,
Mm-hmm.
and that the registrant has no legitimate rights or interests in the name,
Right.
you have a strong case for getting the domain name transferred or suspended.
So those policies really are essential tools for protecting your brand online.
They are.
But I know the legal process can seem daunting.
It can be.
What advice would you give to someone who's facing a domain name dispute? What's the first step?
First of all, don't panic.
Okay.
There are resources available to help you navigate the process.
Right.
The ICANN website has a lot of information about the UDRP and URS,
Right.
and there are specialized law firms that can guide you through the intricacies of filing a complaint.
That's good to know. It's reassuring to know that there's help out there.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up part 2,
Okay.
I want to revisit something Doug Isenberg mentioned in his commentary.
Right.
He talked about how the digital landscape is constantly changing
Mm-hmm.
and how domain name disputes are going to evolve along with it.
Right.
What do you think the future holds for this area of law?
Yeah.
What should our listeners be prepared for?
That's a great question, and it's something that keeps me up at night, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
As we move further into the world of Web3,
Right.
NFTs, and the metaverse,
Mm-hmm.
the concept of digital ownership is becoming increasingly complex.
It's a whole new frontier and the rules are still being written.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're already seeing disputes over virtual land in the metaverse,
Oh, wow.
and I think we'll see similar battles erupt over domain names in these new digital spaces.
So the fight for digital territory is far from over.
Yeah.
It's just taking on new forms.
I think it's a safe bet.
Okay.
The internet is constantly evolving, and the law is always playing catch-up.
Right.
Domain name disputes are going to become even more complex and challenging.
Mm.
It's an area to watch very closely.
Well, that's a thought-provoking way to end part 2 of our deep dive.
It is.
In part 3, we'll delve into some fascinating case studies from the GigaLaw Digest,
Okay.
the surprising CCTLD trends we touched on,
Mm-hmm.
and what it all means for the future of the internet as we know it.
See you there.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch of our exploration of domain name disputes,
Yeah,
and we've saved some of the most intriguing details for last.
definitely.
We've talked about the big picture trends, the policies,
Right.
and the major players.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty and look at some specific cases.
Yeah.
The GigaLaw Digest is full of fascinating examples that really bring the complexities of this world to life.
It does.
Okay, hit me with a case that really grabbed your attention.
Okay.
What's a real-world example of this digital land grab in action?
Right.
What are some of the tactics cyber squatters are using?
One case that stood out involved Urban Armor Gear,
Okay.
a company that makes protective cases for electronic devices.
Right.
They filed a UDRP complaint
Okay.
against someone who had registered dozens of domain names
Wow.
that included their brand name, along with variations like Urban Armor Gear and Urban Armor Gear.
Okay.
The cyber squatter was clearly trying to cast a wide net, hoping to catch some traffic from people searching for the real brand.
So it's not just about exact matches.
Right.
These cyber squatters are getting creative with hyphens, misspellings,
Yeah.
all sorts of variations.
It is.
It's like a game of digital whack-a-mole.
Exactly. And in this case, Urban Armor Gear was successful.
Oh, good.
The panel ruled in their favor,
Okay.
and they were able to reclaim those domain names.
That's the good news.
But it highlights the ongoing challenge
Yeah.
companies face in protecting their brand online.
Yeah.
They have to be incredibly vigilant,
Mm-hmm.
constantly monitoring for potential infringements.
It's a never-ending game of digital chess.
It is.
What about a case that shows a different angle of domain name disputes?
Oh,
Something that really highlights the nuances of these cases.
There was an interesting one involving Newsmax,
Okay.
the conservative American news website.
Right.
They filed a complaint against someone who had registered the domain name newsmax.shop.
Newsmax.shop.
Okay.
Yeah, at first glance.
You might think that's a clear-cut case of cyber squatting.
Right, because it's their brand name plus a generic top-level domain. Seems pretty straightforward.
Right.
What's the catch?
Well, the respondent,
Okay.
the person who registered the domain name,
Mm-hmm.
argued that they intended to use it for a legitimate online store selling political merchandise.
Oh, wow.
They claimed they weren't trying to infringe on Newsmax's trademark,
Oh?
that it was just a coincidence.
Oh, so it becomes a battle over intent.
It does.
How did the panel sort that out?
Right.
How do you prove something like that?
It can be tricky.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these cases so fascinating.
Right.
The panel ultimately sided with Newsmax,
Yeah.
finding that the respondent's intended use of the domain name
Mm-hmm.
was likely to create confusion among consumers.
Interesting.
But it demonstrates that these cases aren't always black and white.
Right.
There's a lot of gray area when it comes to interpreting the respondent's intentions.
It's like trying to read someone's mind digitally.
It is.
Okay, now let's circle back to those surprising CCTLD trends we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The fact that .ro,
Right.
the extension for Romania, was showing up so frequently in the digest really piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
Do you have any theories about what's driving that trend?
It's an interesting puzzle, and we can only speculate without more data.
Yeah.
But it could be a sign that Romania is becoming a more attractive target for cyber squatters.
Okay.
Maybe they see an opportunity to register domain names that might be valuable in the future as Romania's economy grows.
Right.
Or perhaps the .ro registry is becoming more proactive in enforcing its policies against cyber squatting, leading to more cases being filed.
So it's a bit of a mystery.
It is.
But it reinforces the fact that this isn't just a .com issue
Right.
or a problem for any specific region.
exact-
It's truly global.
Absolutely. The internet transcends borders, and so do domain name disputes.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I think it's important to step back and consider the wider implications of what we've uncovered.
I agree.
What does it all mean for the future of the internet, for businesses,
Right.
for everyday users like our listener? What's the big takeaway?
I think it highlights the importance of digital literacy and awareness.
Okay.
We need to understand how the internet works, how domain names function, and how to protect our own interests in this ever-evolving digital landscape.
Right.
Whether you're a business owner or just someone who spends time online, these issues can impact you.
Knowledge is power, especially in the digital world.
Yeah.
The more you understand, the better equipped you are to navigate the complexities and potential pitfalls.
I couldn't agree more. And it's also important to recognize that the law is often playing catch-up with the rapid pace of technological change.
Right.
The UDRP and URS have been effective tools in combating cyber squatting.
Yeah.
But as we move into new digital frontiers like the metaverse, we're likely to face new challenges
Right.
that require innovative legal solutions.
It's an exciting time to be involved in this field.
It is.
But it's also a time for vigilance and adaptability.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. The digital landscape is in constant motion, and we have to be ready to move with it.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into domain name disputes.
It looks like we have.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of cyber squatting to the complexities of the UDRP and URS policies, and we even explored real-world cases that illuminate the challenges and opportunities in this fascinating area of law.
It is fascinating.
I hope our listener found this journey as insightful and engaging as we have.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you, and remember, the internet is a vast and ever-changing space. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the game.
And until next time, happy exploring.